Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Nisha Jain Grover. I'm the founder of Vatsalya Legacy Educational Society, and I'm an educationist as well as a psychologist by profession. So, as we know, today's topic is all about dealing children and teaching them about dealing with uncertainty. And I think forget children, even we as adults are not adapting the new environment and the new things around us. So we all know how difficult it is going to be for our children, right? And we all must know one thing, that children are like sponge. What do you mean by a sponge? So when you put it in water, the sponge absorbs the whole water, right? So our children are just like sponge around us. Whatever the emotions that we feel, the feelings that we show them, they just absorb like a sponge, just like the sponge absorbs water, and they replicate the same feeling and the same emotion. So, firstly, to deal with any kind of uncertainty, we need to first understand that we need to ourselves accept our own emotions and our own feelings. If you are sad, if you're angry, if you're irritated, you're agitated, which is quite obvious in a situation like this where we don't know what is going to happen when and how are we going to deal with things. So uncertainty is something like this, right? Every situation around us, the probability of handling those situation or occurring those situation is same. So let's take COVID. So we don't know whether we will be infected by COVID, we will not be infected by COVID, schools will open or not open, there will be online studies, there will not be online studies, we will be able to go out, we will not be able to go out. Now all this, the probability of all these questions are same, and that is uncertainty, and it affects us, it affects them. So there are few things which can be taken to children in a very positive way. The first thing is acceptance. We have to accept that yes, things are not normal, things are not the way we expected it to be in the coming months to come. So first we have to accept it. Acceptance is the first thing. The moment we as adults accept it, we as parents accept it, the same feeling will go on and pass it on to our children. If we are anxious, if we are irritated, if we are curious about things, that how are things going to happen, the same thing our children are going to pick up. The second thing, what we can teach our children is resilience. Now, what do you mean by resilience? Our children are used to taking ready-made things. You know how this 2-minute Maggie works? You're hungry, just open the packet, put it in water and eat. Our children are used to instant things. Even before they fall, there are parents to save them. There are parents who will tell them, okay, don't climb here, you'll fall. They don't even know what is fall. So resilience, building resilience is so much important. Let them try their own things. Let them experience their own things. Let them express their own things. So building resilience in this time when children are at home with all of you, we as parents can build resilience in them. Let them experience, no matter good, bad, better, worst, whatever. Just let them experience what it is. So we are having questions, but we'll just take it after some time. The second point is that with so much of social distancing around us, you know, it's so difficult that children experience empathy because we hugging, kissing, making them sit on our lap, taking them out, holding hands. When they meet their friends, they hug each other, they are very close to each other. And for them, it builds social emotional skills and it builds empathy for them. Right. But in a situation like this, where children are away from each other, children are not able to meet each other, children are not able to play with each other, empathy can be developed and can be taught at home. So we as parents have to teach them that even when we are not touching each other, even when we are not able to meet each other on regular occasions, or we are not being able to be together as a big family or big functions together, we can still practice empathy. There are ways to talk to people on the phone. There are ways to express your feelings when you talk on a video call, and it is very important. Suppose if a child is missing her grandmother or grandfather, it is important that she or he expresses her feeling to the grandmother that I am missing you, or I'm wanting to be with you, or I miss what you cook, I miss the way you used to tell us stories, the way I used to play with you. All this is very important for them to express to their children, to their grandparents, or to whomsoever they love. So children don't express the we as we express. So suppose if I am angry with someone, I would show up my anger. If I'm irritated, I would show up that I'm irritated. I would say, like, "Okay, go, I don't want to talk to you." Children are different. They express in different way. They retaliate. They show that they are uncomfortable. They withdraw from things. They would behave as if they are not listening to you, and these are signs that something is not right. They are not comfortable about the situation, about what is happening around them. Suddenly, why everybody is at home? Suddenly, why am I not going to school? Suddenly, why am I not allowed to go to the park? So sit, talk to them, even if they are preschoolers. Just sit, talk to them, explain them what the situation is all about, and how. And I have seen, parents building up fears. If you will do like this, God, if you will not listen to me, God will come and give you corona. If you will not do this, corona will come to you. Don't build up fears. We have to live in this society, and we have to live here itself on this universe. So eventually they should be knowing that what exactly is happening, and why are they told to be at home. How is it going to be safe if they are going to be at home? Unnecessary building up anxiety, unnecessary building up fears is only going to take them to a level where they are going to be more uncomfortable. So how do they learn to express their feelings? So when it comes to uncertainty, and when children are not able to talk about it very openly, stories are the best way to teach them things related, the things that are happening which are not acceptable, or which we are not accepting very open heartedly. So stories for preschoolers are the best way to tell them. If you have middle school children and high school children, conversation about what we can do. So when you ask them, when you ask for a solution, they start looking for a solution. Problem comes when you just throw a problem to them. You know what, this has happened. Fine, this has happened. Okay, start with a conversation. Okay, what do you think what we can do? There's a problem like this, and we are not able to handle a particular situation. What do you think we can do? And when the conversation builds up around a situation that, okay, fine, this is the thing that we can do, the anxiety level goes down. When you believe that I have a solution inside, let the child come and tell you, okay, mom or dad, what if we play Karen? What if we play cards? What if I help you doing the cleaning, because you get tired throughout the day and you're getting irritated because there's so much of work around the house for you. Why don't I help you? Why don't I pick up this thing? Let the solutions come from there, right? The third thing that you can do with them is, whenever children are told to do something, they're especially when they're preschoolers, what goes on to their head is what's going to happen next. So suppose you're going to have lunch with them, they are not concentrating on the kind of lunch that you're having, or the lunch that you're enjoying. For them, what we are going to do after lunch builds up anxiety, builds up curiosity. So curiosity and anxiety, it has a very, very thin line between it. When curiosity goes overboard, it becomes anxiety. But when curiosity is managed well, you start learning from it. So when it comes to your small children and preschoolers, make sure that you have a schedule for them. Even if it is lockdown, it's no point waking up at 12 o'clock, having milk and breakfast at 2, not taking bath and not brushing your teeth and not sleeping well, not eating well, just watching television or just being on the screen all the time. No, let them be on a proper schedule. You have to wake up at 8 o'clock. We are having breakfast at 9. There are some online classes at 10, then XYZ, then XYZ, then rest, then this. So when they know what is going to come up next, the anxiety levels are down. The curiosity of the uncertainty becomes a little less. So a positive strategy opening, if you're making, the schedule, if it is made nicely, it helps them to build up nicely. It helps them to strategize their day nicely, and it will help you to manage your work nicely, because you know where you have to be with your child. How much time is it going to take? If you're a parent who's working from home, you will know at what time and how much time you are required to be with your child. So if a scheduled day is there, you can schedule your work and the child can schedule his or her work, right? The another point is, give them small responsibilities. So when it comes to uncertainty, you know what? As it is, we don't know what is going to happen, and we are in a situation that we don't know what is going to happen. So might as well, taking small decisions makes you build up your confidence. Now, small decisions like, you're having breakfast together. Just ask them, what are we what can we have for dinner tonight? So let them suggest, why don't we make this vegetable or this cereal, or why don't we have a pizza or something like that. So when they start building up their choices and they start building up their decision making, you can build a conversation related to, okay, fine, you want to have a pizza. 3 days ago we had pizza, so let's avoid that and let's have something healthy. Maybe after 2 days we can make pizza. Can you give me some healthy choices? Right? You can even ask for help, like, something like, okay, I'm going to the washroom and I'm putting up the machine, I'm going to wash clothes. Is there anybody who can help me to dry these kind of small clothes or this big clothes or something like that? So if they are building up on taking up decision on themselves, if they are telling you, okay, fine, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this is my responsibility. Every time everybody eats food, it's my responsibility to keep the plates over here, and the other child will say, it's my responsibility to do things here. So giving them small responsibility always helps. There's a very nice line. I don't remember the name of the story, but that story's moral was that everybody is scared, but when we are together, we are less scared. So we have to make our children feel that we all are together, and we all will somehow deal with it. We all will somehow handle this nicely. Just building up anxiety and building up curiosity is not going to help. Um, Next is, you can while you're building up a routine for your children, remember, in the entire schedule that you build up for your child, remember to have some kind of sports activity or any kind of physical activity at home. Now, sports is not just going and playing on the ground. There are so many different things that children can do at home which can physically involve them in many things. So it can be anything like dusting, it can be like cleaning, it can be like wiping, it can be like putting up things from one place to the other place. You can also go onto your terrace or to a small space that you have, running here and there, playing some small games that makes them physically active. So if these things you are inculcating in them from now only, so all our emotions and all our feelings are easy to handle if you are physically active. Once you sit at one place and you are not physically active, your negative thoughts multiply 10 to 20 times. So if I'm thinking that I'm not feeling well, things are not fine, and I'm not doing anything about it, I'm just sitting at one place, then I'm just multiplying that thought 10 to 20 times to 100 times, that I'm not well, I'm not well, I'm not well. I'm sure many of you all must have heard about manifestation. what we think manifests. So if I'm thinking something negative, and if I'm not doing anything about it to make it positive, I'm only manifesting that thought. I'm only helping the energies and the universe to manifest my negative thought. So the moment you feel that the child is getting a little dull, sitting on a couch, not getting up, or not not being very active, just create a game out of something. Make the child a little active, runs around here and there and goes here and there, or helps you for something, or you cook together, something like that. So these are things which actually helps your children to handle different kinds of uncertainty. Third thing, I mean the fourth thing that you can do is start reading books to them. And if they are older children, introduce books to them, even as old as 7 years old. Just introduce nice books, nice authors to them, which can build up positivity, which can build their communication, make their vocabulary better, and always help them to be connected to what's happening around. And books are one thing which can actually become a child's best friend. So, we all parents are really worried about our children being on screen most of the time because of online studies. So, books are one thing to take them off screen, because even when they are studying, they're on screen, they are feeling that they're studying, they're not enjoying. So they want to use screen more in form of television, or if they want to play an online game, or if they want to see something on YouTube, or want to just surf Instagram. So for them, that is also screen, and studying online also becomes screen. So in a situation like this, if you introduce good books to them, now there are many children who are not readers. There we have audio learners, we have visual learners, and we have kinesthetic learners. So children, there are many children who don't like to read. So the best way to introduce reading to them is to start, if they are not reading themselves, just start reading the books to them. Start reading 5 to 7 to 10 pages every day. Talk about it to them. Introduce what the author wants to say. And if you see that the choice is building up, they are liking to read, the best way is to start reading to them after, say, after every second or third day. Just give 2 or 3 days of 3 day break when you start reading new to your children. Don't read to them every day, because it becomes too much. It doesn't sink in. So when you start reading to your children, start reading a bit about 8 to 10 pages, and then give a break of, say, one day, and then again read after one day, and read another 8 to 10 pages, and see if the interest is building up. And if it is, after, say, about 10 to 12 days, tell your child to read on his own. That, okay, I read 10 pages for you, now you read 7 to 8 pages. So that is one thing, it actually helps. Now, we as parents, we don't talk about the process of how emotions work. So what happens when we are angry? We would just say something, okay, fine, why did you do this? I didn't like it. And go now, don't talk to me. So that is how we are showing our anger, right? So whenever a child will do a mistake, he or she is expecting this kind of an attitude from you. In that situation, in a situation like this, the your own child stops communicating about the mistake that the child has done and why this mistake happened. It can be a very small thing like breaking a glass or not completing homework. So breaking a glass would be just by chance, it's an human error. So if you respond like this, you are teaching your child to respond like this when somebody else does the same thing in the same environment or somewhere else. So now for these things, these kind of reactions are not required for such things, right? So whenever, suppose if your child is not sitting for the online exam or for the online test or online classes that are going on, talk to the child. What is wrong? There may be some itchiness in the eyes. There may be some problem that the child is not able to understand. There is some problem that the child is not able to relate, because this is so much new that is happening with him or her. So sit, instead of forcing and instead of just commanding, talk to him or her, no matter what age group. And if still the child is not comfortable, sit with him or her for the initial 10 minutes. Start with building up 10 minutes in the beginning, then 15 minutes, then 20 minutes. So, there are so many older children who respond, in fact, I would say who react very differently in different situations. But we have to see ourselves as parents. How have we reacted in different situations, in different circumstances around us? And our children have picked up the same reactions. As I said in the beginning, they are like sponge. They have picked up the same reactions because they've learned from us. So during this lockdown, now that children are at home, teach them to respond and not react. So, responding is more of conversation, responding is more of communication, responding is more of asking and not blaming, responding is more of talking and not accusing. But when we talk or when we express our feelings or emotions, it is more of reactions which has blames, which has accusations, and which has no communication, which has no conversation. So it is so much important. Our human brain, a little scientific thing I'll explain. Whenever you blame somebody or whenever you start accusing somebody, suppose this is a level of a human to listen to you, right? So let's keep it like a straight line, and this is the level, right? So the moment you start accusing and you start blaming, no matter if that person is a child or if that person is an adult or a grown up adult, right? So the moment you start accusing and blaming, the level comes here. So this is the normal level of a person to understand and listen, right? The level comes down to almost 13 to 15%, right? So there were already chances that since the emotions have been so high, the person is not going to listen to you. But now there are 15% more chances that the person is not listening to you at all. Right. So the best way to start a communication is by talking and by being us, not you and me or not I. Once you become us, the level which is here rises up by 5% to 7%. And the person is now ready to listen, ready to respond, and ready to change. So again, when it comes to change, we are not here to change others. It's better we start changing ourselves when it comes to our children. They are like sponge, as we said in the beginning. So the moment you start changing yourself, they start changing themselves. If you start responding from reacting, they will learn how to respond from reacting. So these are some basic things which um, can work during this lockdown. So it's very important to monitor ourselves. How am I responding to a particular situation? uh, is my child also doing the same way? So now during this so much of screen time around us, there is some form of irritability and some form of I would say uncomfort to your child and to yourself is going to happen, because we all know that screen harms us, and screen makes our decision power a little weaker. It gives us that kind of uh, responses. So I would suggest that if the online learning is not happening, if the online learning, academic learning is online, make sure that the screen timing is properly divided into 15 minutes to 20 minutes to 25 minutes and not more than that. It's not a very long screen time. It will impact the structure of the brain, the structure of how we take our messages, how the brain functions, and how we are responding to those messages will play a very important role. Second thing is, never make screen and food together. Screen and food should never be together. It's like doing two diagonal things and together and trying to get them do do it respond together. So make sure that these things are not happening together, and they sleep on time. There should be sound sleep of almost 8 to 9 hours every day. There should be no screen before sleeping, say about an hour and a half, no screen before that, and a little bit of yoga, a little bit of breathing. Our existence is with breathing, right? They should know that correct breathing will help them think correctly, because correct breathing really works with the entire system. So teach them how to breathe correctly, teach them how to sit correctly, postures, breathing, yoga, meditation, screen, everything plays a very important role. Keep all that aside. All that is important, but the most important thing is us as parents. If we know how to respond, if we know how to behave, if we know how to be calm in a situation like this, which is the most difficult situation that has come around us, I'm sure our children will learn to handle the any situation that comes to them when they grow up. Failures are part of life. Even when you play with them, any game, even if it is a small game where they have to make puzzles, don't always make it a situation where they want to win. It's not about winning. Teach them that participation is the most important thing. But if you're participating only to win, it's not going to help. It only builds up anxiety, because then you are not playing, but you're playing just to win. And when you're playing just to win, your focus will shift. It is very easy to take you down. So my only suggestion is this, that whenever you are playing any kind of game, any kind of even if it is like the snake and the ladder, why snake and ladder was made, because you start winning and suddenly you start losing. You're going up and suddenly you're coming down, right? That is how life is. Life is like that. It is not a baseline, right? It is like up and down, and that is what life teaches us. So you must teach your child that failure is part of life. Winning is not the only thing. If you are not winning, somebody else is winning, and he or she is your loved one if they are winning. So that will build up empathy. So we have some questions here. How to introduce to a 3-year-old a new hobby? You can. This is asked by Miss Dimple. A 3-year-old a new hobby. You start doing it yourself, and the child will pick it up. Suppose you want him to draw, or you want him to color or paint. Start doing it yourself, and the child will automatically pick up. This is from Komal. My child is very moody and it's get difficult for me at time to control him, how to keep him engaged. Firstly, your child is not a machine, Miss Komal. You don't have to control. It's not a remote control that you have to hold it and you have to control up and down and low and high and something like that. No, you don't have to do that. You don't have to control your children. Engaging them, yes. Whatever you are doing throughout the day, I don't know what is the age of that child. Whatever you are doing throughout the day, involve your child in that. If you're cooking, involve your child. You're washing, involve your child. You're watching television, involve your child. See something what your child can also see and learn for some time. If you're reading newspaper, involve your child, and the child will be engaged. And also the child will be learning new life skills which will help them later in life. So this is from Miss Saha Dimple. I have always suffered from anxiety. Yes, there are many people who suffer from anxiety, and I see some signs of it in my little one. Yes, of course you will, because when you're anxious about something, Miss Saha Dimple, it comes into our behavior. And when you're irritated about something, it comes onto our behavior, and our children pick that up. So if you are getting anxious for smallest things in your life, that you are standing, you're driving and the signal is too long, the car ahead of you is not moving and you're getting anxious about it, your child is going to pick up that. So you need to control your anxiety, and to control that, the best thing is to include any form of physical activity and breathing exercises. These two are excellent for anxiety. Even if you can't do a good form of physical activity, please get yoga into your life and do at least 10 to 15 minutes of breathing exercises. They really work very well. So there are some questions. Okay. So we have a question from Miss Ruhi. How I increase my children to study online classes? My child is 12 years old Take seriously how I increase my children to study online. Okay, so what I'm understanding from her question is that her children are not taking the online studies very seriously. See, Miss Ruhi, these things are very new to our children. You know, even we were not taking lockdown very seriously, right? When it started, we all thought, oh, it's going to go in some days. And then we got accustomed to it. And then we got used to it. We started thinking new things. We started building new things. We started finding out ways to keep ourselves occupied, be it cooking, be it talking on the phone, be it playing online games, or whatever. So we have to understand it's new for them. Take time, talk to your child, ask him what is the problem that he's not able to study. Make sure that the distance between the phone and what he's sitting is appropriate, so that there is no strain on his brain or on his eyes, and he's comfortable enough to do it. Don't do it forcefully. The best is to talk it out to your child and find out a situation where both of you are comfortable. If necessary, start sitting with him for 10-15 minutes. Start writing notes for him. Tell him that you listen. Maybe he's a not a visual learner. So tell him that you listen. I will write your notes for some days, and slowly and steadily will get used to it. My child is 2.5 year old to sit at one place and finish his meal. It's being tough to feed him even if he's hungry. He doesn't know it and just demand to keep playing. So this question is from Swati, whose child is not sitting at one place and eating. So Swati, since the child is just 2.5 years old, it's better to change your ways and not his way. So probably you are taking a full meal, like a bowl of something, and a chapati or something like that. Decrease the amount, decrease the quantity of that meal, make it half, so that he finishes it fast. So you know your child is not understanding that how much is he eating. What he is understanding is, why am I supposed to sit for so long? So sitting for that long you have to decrease, right? So instead of feeding him with that one whole chapati, start feeding him with half a chapati or one bowl of a rice. Instead of two bowls of rice or a full bowl of rice, take half bowl of rice. Means, what I mean to say is, divide that one meal also into two parts. So initially give half bowl, and after some time, maybe an hour or so, another half bowl. So let the child first get used to sitting with you for 10 minutes rather than starting with 20 minutes directly, right? Then we have a question from Miss Meena. How to teach colors, alphabets, and numbers. So, Miss Meena, there are ample of videos on YouTube. There are videos even on our channel, the Vatsalya Legacy channel, where we are showing how to teach colors and all. But the best way is to introduce your child with you in the kitchen. So, suppose if you're making a vegetable and you are using green chilies, so just pick up and then say, this is a chili, and what color is this? This is green. You're putting tomatoes, pick up the tomato, it's a red tomato. Apple, grapes, capsicum, yellow capsicum, this pepper, that pepper. The child will start learning colors. And suppose if you're chopping vegetables, right? So start teaching. Okay, fine. Give me three lady fingers. I'm going to chop it. Now give me two chilies. I'm going to chop it. So you're teaching numbers. So you can introduce life skills, and you can introduce all these academic skills into one part and teach a lot of things to your children. So we have another question from SK. How to learn parts of body? My child is always confused in this. So I don't know what age group are you talking, Mr. or Miss SK. But of course, parts of body are taught even at preschool, and parts of body should be taught very seriously to children, because they are so small that if there's any hurt or any injury, they should be able to clearly tell that where it is paining and how did they get hurt. So teach very clearly, touch the body parts, and then teach, right? So when you are teaching, like, this is a nose, these are your eyes, these are ears. So when you touch and show it, so it happens like, all the three learning are happening together: kinesthetic learning, audio learning, and visual learning, right? So then we have another question from PU. My son is smitten with COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. Whenever we discuss among ourselves that when will this end, he starts crying and throwing tantrum that it should not be over. So yes, there are some people who are getting comfortable with it. It is going to be difficult for many mothers to send their children back to school. There will be a lot of separation anxiety. There would be a lot of tantrums throwing in the house before school and even after school. So the best way, Miss Pio, is this, that let your child be in a proper schedule. Once the schedule go haywire, the children start adapting the new schedule and they start believing that this is what my new life is all going to be all about. So let the child be in a proper schedule of waking up, sleeping, eating, watching television, studying, everything. The more the schedule is appropriate and child appropriate, the more it will be easier for you to handle this situation. Snehal, taking each other responsibility is fine, but how can we teach them sharing? Very, very important question. So, suppose if you're cooking something at home, Miss Sneha Anil Reddy, and you've made a very nice dish, how does resilience come? The moment you make something, children want to immediately eat. It's very difficult for them to wait. You must have all read about the marshmallow test. So building up that resilience means starting with the child in your house who's a little less patient, I would say. Everybody is very fond of eating. So how do you start? So you prepare the dish and you give it to that child and you tell him that you have to serve to everybody, keeping in mind that everybody gets the same portion and even you have the same portion, and in the end you're going to eat. So that way you are building up resilience. That way you're also building up the sharing, that everybody should get the same portion. So this is one very nice way. I have applied it in my house when my children were small, and it really works. So just prepare any dish, whatever dish you have made at home. So every day or every second day, if you have two children, then divide it into lunch and dinner. One child will serve all of them their lunch, and one will do the dinner part. And everybody gets the same portion or how much ever they want. And in the end, I will take my appropriate portion and I will eat. So it really helps. Miss Nikita is asking, my kid is not interested in playing any sports and move out to the terrace or open place. How to motivate him? Miss Nikita, what you do is, you and your husband or you or any other family member just go on the terrace and start playing anything. Let the child just observe for some days. Don't force him, don't tell him. Just let him hear the kind of enjoyment you both are doing, running here and there and catching each other, or just play some small little game. Let the child observe this fun for some days. Believe me, after 7 days, don't nag, don't tell, see how much fun we had, see what we did, you didn't come, you didn't miss. No, don't do that. Just don't say anything. You and one more partner, anybody in the family, just go have fun on the terrace, play. Seventh day, he will come and he will at least come and check what you are doing. And within 10 days, the child will play with you. Should be playing, like, right? Keep that in mind. So we have a question from Miss Patil. How should I engage my 3-year-old son in reading and writing? Ma'am, it's too early to start with writing at least, but reading, yes, you can start reading out stories to him, finger reading, so he starts understanding what you're reading and starts observing how the alphabets are made and how the formation of the alphabets are there. But writing is a little too early. You can wait for some time. We have a question from Miss Prafula. My child doesn't have an eye-to-eye contact when she talks to someone. Okay, so there's a very simple technique for eye-to-eye contact is, once what happened that when you tell your child, look at me and talk, look at me and talk, look into my eyes and talk, they will not do that. So the moment you see that while talking, your child is not looking at you, just do like this, and automatically the attention will come to you, right? See, the more you will tell, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, what are you manifesting? I'm not doing eye contact, I'm not doing eye contact, I'm not doing eye contact. Don't use words, just do like this and tell him or her what's the meaning of this. Remember, when I do this, you have to look at me. So when you do this, the child will look at you. So just try this. In case if it doesn't work, send me a mail. I would tell you some nice other activities what you can do. So we have, and we are taking up this last question because the time is going up. I have a daughter who's 12. How can I introduce my elder? One, two, menstruation. Oh, yes, it is very important. Nowadays, girls are getting their menstruation at the age of 9 and at the age of 10. So, in very simple methodology, there are very nice YouTube videos also. There are YouTube videos also on the other channels wherein you can tell them that what exactly is menstruation. But the best way is to explain them in simple scientific language that you know what happens when the internal organs of a woman cleans up and when internal organs of a woman are changing and there are hormonal changes. So why for a girl of like 12 years old, it is very easy to explain that why we need the cleaning of the internal system and how the blood cleans when menstruation happens. So explain in very simple language, and today's children take it in a very positive way. So Miss Neha, you don't need to worry more. How do I handle toddler tantrums when my baby girl is 21 months old? She is very naughty, and if we won't give her anything, so if you're not giving her anything, and if she's throwing tantrums, she's picked up this like a sponge. You know, she's seen it from somewhere and she's doing it. And she's 21 months old, and if she's very naughty, then she's adorable, and I love her for that because children ought to be naughty. They have to be naughty, and they have to live their childhood by being naughty. And if she's throwing tantrums, just check your and the other people's behavior at home. I think that should sort out. So if there is any other question, you can mail us, you can get in touch with us. There would be details, I think, First Cry would share, or you can look for Vatsalya Legacy and you will get our details. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to all of you. Stay connected, stay safe, and go out only if it is necessary. Happy parenting.